Okay, and we're back, and as you can see, the Windows operating system has been installed in this VM3. Another thing you'll notice here, if I go to Home and just unexpand this, you'll notice that Server 1, Server 2 has been powered off. Basically, what powering off means, if you right-click and go Power, obviously it's powering off, so they're not on. Obviously, I don't want my resources to be consumed if I'm not using them. So you can power these off or suspend them. I've actually turned them off, if you will. So you'll notice that there's no little diamond next to the two instances here, VMs. So that's what powering off means. Just I thought I'd point out. So now back to this. So as I mentioned, if I expand this, obviously, as you know, the server management keeps popping up every time you restart the service or restart the computer. One way to disable it, you'll see everything is in green, which is great. One thing to disable is just go here, go to Server Manager Properties, and then click Do Not Start Automatically on Logon, and then you won't see this window open. And I think I tried to illustrate that earlier, but I didn't show you how to do it, and that's how you do it. So now if I turn this off, a couple of things we need to do first. So this is, as I said, SQL Server 3 Windows 2012 operating system. You'll notice here there's a no communication with the network, so we're going to change that, and that's the IP addressing. You'll also look at the volume here, no audio set. If you want to change it, you can. If you want to, just go right-click Sounds, and would you like to enable? If you want to do it, that's fine. If you wanted to do that, and go OK here. Then the next thing we're going to do is, right now I'm using just the default user that I chose to install, which is me. However, I want to change the admin account. So take your mouse, hover to the bottom left, and you'll see the start menu. Just click on it, left click, and you'll see this. And then obviously what I do is I like to pin these. So if you just right click it and just pin it to the taskbar, which I already have. And then we can go back to the desktop. So if you go to your control panel, open, go to your accounts, click on Administrator Local Account, and this is the account I'm using, or RAF as, but I don't want to use that. I want to use Administrative Account. So click on this, and we're going to create a password. Now, it's important that you create a complex password. What that means is that it must have upper letters, a combination of text, and combination of numerics or numbers, and it must be a certain length, probably by 8 characters. So I'm going to use an uppercase and both combination of, as I said, numeric and text. So that's my password. And that's my password, and create a password. Oops. So make sure they obviously there. That's why. And create password. And that's it. So admin's account has been created. And now actually if I log out and log back in using that account, I'll have a better, oops, this thing is kind of tricky if you click on it, but so go start, and this is it. So I'm going to sign out, and now I'm going to sign back in. On your workstation, if you'll notice, this is the Control-Alt-Delete. So click that, and there's the administrator. So click on the administrator, type in the password you just created, and now we're going to use this account from now on. So it has administrative rights for this computer also. Again, comes up. You can change it. Go Manage, Server. Okay, sometimes I like to see it because I like to see all this green, so I know if there's any issues with the server itself, I can resolve them. So now that we've done that, it's going to redo it because it needs to do the VM tools. That's fine. That's normal. So again, and I'm worried about time, so I'm going to try to cut this fairly short and continue with the next thing. One thing I want to point out is obviously if we're going to install SQL Server on it, if you go here, if we're going to install SQL Server, then we need to find the ISO file for SQL. if you notice this right here, this ribbon here at the bottom, the taskbar here, this is my computer. This is not part of the VM. So if I click on this and go to my C drive and my apps folder, you'll notice that I have the SQL 2012 image. If I double click that, and I've extracted the ISO files, and these are the setup files. So what I want to do now is allow the virtual machine to access this, and that's what I'm going to do now. So that's a great feature of virtual machines. So the way you do that is click on the VM, in this case SQL Server 3, right click, settings, options, and under share folder, click on that, and here you'll see it. Go always, add, and then obviously it's going to find that path. You can copy paste it, which I did. Go next, and then you can actually map it. It's easier, and go OK. So now if you go to drive C here, see, this is mapped already. So that's a great feature of having VM. So if I click on that, you'll see these extracted files. And then the next video, we're going to actually install the SQL server with all the properties and proper way to do it, as we've been talking about. So we'll leave that another thing. The last thing before I want to cut this video short is configure the NIC card, the network interface card, so we can access the domain and the internet. So right click this, open network and sharing center, go to change adapter settings, and there's the Ethernet card. Go to properties. One more thing before I actually do this is, let me close this, go to settings, go to network adapter, and click on bridged. So as you can see, it connects directly to the physical network, and then go OK. And we may have to restart this virtual machine. Back to the Ethernet properties. So let me close that. So start again, so we know how we got to this point. Well, as you can see, it's already defaulted, but that's not what I want. I want to create an IP address, because now it's actually getting internet access from my host computer. But again, I want to give it a static IP address. I want to be able to join the domain also. So right click, go to properties, uncheck Internet Protocol 6, because we don't use that right now. Double click the IPv4, and now we're going to assign it an address. Again, don't worry about this stuff. So I'm just going to give it an IP address, which is basically giving it a unique address to this very computer. So I'm going to say 192.168.0.53. Subnet masks. Default is 192.168.0.1. The default gateway address is actually my router address. And then the preferred DNS, I'm going to say 192.168.1, or actually 0.50. 127 dot. Oops, should be 0. Now if I go OK. You'll see right now it says Ethernet 0 network. When we join the domain, it's going to join actually the SQL domain. So now I'm going to restart this server. So go over here, uncheck, right click, and go to power, and then restart guest. That will basically restart your computer. And then the last thing we're going to do here in this video, at least, if time permitting, is join the domain. So it's not part of the domain. It's a standalone server. And now we're going to join the domain, which is the, obviously, SQL domain here. So let's give it a few seconds to start. So as you can see, the responsibilities of a DBA are immense. You've got to understand a tremendous amount. But I'm hoping that you will learn from this step by step, as I am going through step by step, And this will certainly build your career in the future and give you a very rewarding at the end of your career. So now you can see this is here. I open this up this time. I haven't joined the domain yet. So now I'm going to do that. So now let's join the domain. So to join a domain, go to this folder, click on it, go to computer, right click, properties. As you can see, the other thing I want to change is the computer name. I don't like this win so-and-so name, so I'm going to change it. So I'm going to change that, go change, and there. I'm going to call it server 3, since I called the other ones server 2. And go OK. And I can also join the domain. The domain is sql.com. And again, we may have to restart the... Now remember, this is the reason we want to use the administrator password. So admin. Remember that password, complex password that we chose. Oops. And now it should say welcome to SQL, which it does. And now I'm going to go OK, and it's going to ask me to restart, which is fine. And I'm going to restart the computer. So that was several steps in preparing the Windows operating system, joining a domain, setting some configurations with the administration account, changing the network interface card properties to give it a static IP address, which means it's giving it a unique address to this computer and only this computer. And then we joined the domain. And then the next video, I'm going to be creating the virtual machine, virtual hard drives, the domain accounts on the domain server. Then I'm going to actually show you how to install SQL 2012 Production Enterprise Edition. And this is the whole series why we've been getting to. So now, as you can see, well, actually, this is not what I want. I want other users. So when you're joining a domain, as I said, the domain goes first. So it's SQL /. So a user account, ours is administrator. And then the password. And then just go OK or just click here. That helps if you spell it right. Okay, SQL administrator. So let me look the password. I guess it didn't take. And there we go. So remember, a domain user has the domain name / plus the username. And that's how you know you've joined a domain. As you can see, we're now in the domain network, SQL. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I've gained almost 20 minutes. I don't want to go over 20 minutes if possible. So in the next video, actually, I'm going to install the SQL Server 2012 properly. And I'll leave it there. And this is Raphael with how to become a production SQL database administrator.